Hey, everybody. My name is Brendan Vaughan. I'm editor-in-chief of Fast Company. Welcome to day 2 of the Fast Company Grill. Nice to see all of you out there. Some familiar faces. I'm here with Jim Lanzone, CEO of Yahoo. Jim, yeah. Give it up for Jim.
These guys are awake.
No, everybody's
getting warmer out here too.
You've had a few hours to recover from whatever happened last night, and everybody looking sprightly and ready to go for another day. So, Jim's known as a turnaround artist. He has worked at Ask.com, Tinder, where else? You tell me. Yeah, CBS Interactive. Yep. Jim comes in when companies could use a little love and helps give them that love, nurtures them back to life. We're going to talk about, not back to life. I don't want to mischaracterize. Yahoo has never gone anywhere.
It's a little bit of that.
It's always been a huge site, but brand-wise, has had some moments of drift and some moments of less relevance than others. So Jim's story since coming to the company after Apollo bought it from Verizon, took it private, has had a vision for restoring the brand, or growing the brand and adding features, products, new services, doubling down on some of the things that have always been very strong at Yahoo, like sports, finance, mail. So without any further ado from me, Jim, let's start by just you talking about what you saw when you got to the company almost, 4.5 years ago now, and kind of what you see as the major steps in your work so far.
Okay. Well, look, I mean, the thesis coming in for us as the turnaround team was that Yahoo is this, it was the original. It was the OG. It was this brand that deserved to get back on top. And in some ways it never left because it was still, in the end of 2021, hundreds of millions of users a month using some of the most important products on the internet. Still top 2 in email with Gmail, number 1 in finance, top 2 in news, top 2 in sports. Like these are things that are really core experiences that were still the leading brands in many ways in their categories. But the overall brand, it would almost be like the way Facebook rebranded themselves Meta, but they had WhatsApp and Instagram and Facebook. Yahoo had kind of the same thing. So when people thought about Yahoo, the overall brand, that had maybe seen better days, but underneath it, these individual brands were still huge with hundreds of millions of users a month. And we really thought there was something you could do with that if you were to come in with great people and you focused on product again and the craftsmanship of what made those products great in the first place. And certainly the brand had been through the ringer and the search wars and Google and Facebook and all these things over the years that kind of came along and outshined it in many ways. Underneath it was just this great business that I think was just underappreciated. And if you're not afraid of doing the hard work of a turnaround, which I'm not, I've been through a few of them, then you would have something really to work with. And this brand, deserved it. It deserved, there's a lot of inherent kind of latent love there for the brand. And as we've gotten through this now a little bit, and started launching awesome products and putting the brand back out into the world, including here, this week. But we started here a couple years ago doing some new things. We started seeing like, it is possible. People do want that from Yahoo, and so it's exciting. We're still feeling like we're at the beginning in certain ways, but things are going well so far.
So we were talking backstage about this a little bit, and Yahoo, like you think of it as almost kind of like in some ways and please don't take this the wrong way, because I think there's just a good thing about this that we chatted about, which is like the vinyl of the internet in a way, like that there's this sort of like nostalgic affection for the brand, but you also want it to be supremely modern in terms of what it offers the user with features and its tech stack and all that. So talk a little bit about how you see the pros and any potential cons of leaning into it as a internet legacy brand versus the modern definition.
So I'd say 2 things. One is without awesome new products, modern products, people will never care about the vintage aspect. But I see a lot of Adidas here. I see New Balance in the front row. I see old school Nikes. Like there's something very lovable about a brand that's been around a while, and that vintage side too, if you can modernize it on the product side. And So that kind of sweet spot, that modern vintage sweet spot for the brand, look, it has been around since the very beginning, right? 1995, Yahoo helped invent the internet. And I think that original vibe of the internet, that good internet that it started as, everybody was very like optimistic about what the internet could be, and connecting people and websites, and we can buy things online and find things online and consume content online was so positive to start with. And over the years, just you talk about like what's happened to a lot of it and clickbait and AI slop and the negative side. And now at this point, I saw yesterday 50% of the value of the S&P 500 is in 10 companies that have essentially taken over everybody's lives. And even the newer AI companies are kind of headed that same way. I think we can all feel it. But there was a different time when there were a lot more brands out there that were doing a lot more things, and it wasn't so consolidated and kind of just headed towards dystopia that I think Yahoo kind of helped stand for that. And we could talk about it, but we just launched in January our own AI search engine, which is the first search product that Yahoo has launched in a very long time. And we have our own angle on it that I think is also less, less dystopian in the way it was created, let's just say.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into Scout. I want to hit you with one more question before that, which is just to kind of cap off our like table setting for the Yahoo now versus Yahoo in the past. Imagine a user, say 10 years ago. This person has not used Yahoo in the last 10 years, and they come to Yahoo now. And maybe this is a way to introduce the Scout conversation, but like start with sort of what that they loved is gone, and what is there that is going to shock them, delight them, surprise them.
Well, you almost have to go back to what happened to Yahoo and we had to do the forensics. Everybody on the team is kind of new. And you know that ship of Theseus philosophy question of if you replace every plank on the ship, is it still that same ship, even though the name is the same? I think Yahoo has that. Every pixel on Yahoo is new. So the brands are the same, what we're doing is the same, but the way we're doing it is very, very different. But Yahoo...
Just to clarify, is that the case since you started 5 years ago? Everything is replaced. The whole tech stack, everything under the
Every
hood.
single thing. Yes. And so if you go back to why Yahoo was in the position it was, which is fine, we had to kind of uncover this. They did lose search. And very early, like with the Web 1.0 crash. And the reason it happened is they never did search. They actually gave it away to Google. They were licensing it from a company called Inktomi. Then they licensed it to from Google. They paid Google. It would be the equivalent of today, Google putting a ChatGPT logo on every search results page that linked to ChatGPT and did that same search on ChatGPT. That's what Yahoo did. And they paid Google for the privilege. Because there was no business model in search, they licensed it, and their job as the guide to the internet was to provide the best search. So
they were just strategically to kind of put a fine point on that.
Yeah.
It made sense to them at the time because they weren't in search and they felt like it's too. We don't want to be in search. We want to be the guide to the internet, but our users need search.
They looked at search as plumbing, and they were the number one search place to do a search, but the technology was not theirs. So, okay, then Google launches, Google becomes Google. They spent a decade trying to become an entertainment company. They hired people from Hollywood and kind of had that era. And then they went through a couple other eras, and the one that we inherited was essentially the homepage was really, maybe a more salacious news hub. And every version of the product kind of had been through all that. So, yes, every version of our products are new. The homepage is back to being very utility-based. Yahoo Finance has had a huge upgrade, and Yahoo Fantasy Sports, which we were the OG for that too. 3 new fantasy games last year, which every one of them hit and was actually really popular. We have 3 more coming this year. Yahoo Mail is completely upgraded, and for the first time in a very long time, with our own technology, and the person running is actually standing right back here. We have our own search engine again, and it's all feeling very great.
That's Scout.
That is called Yahoo Scout. So Yahoo Scout is our AI search engine.
So why should someone use? I mean, you guys are a little bit late in the answer engine game. There's a lot of competition out there. Why should somebody switch to Scout?
I think in the wide swath of history, as we look at where search is headed, this 3 years in will not seem that late. But we 4.5 years ago, taking over the company, had a lot to fix. So we couldn't, we had to do all the transformation work first. Then we had to relaunch every version of our product second. And then we could kind of turn our attention to search about a year ago. And as we looked at it, we could just keep licensing search the way Yahoo did for many years. And we have a relationship with Microsoft Bing that goes back to 2009. But when it came to AI search, we truly determined that the best company to build AI search for Yahoo was Yahoo. And the reason goes to the differentiation is that we have 30 years of search query history, 30 years of user data, usage data, all these thousands of relationships with publishers where we send them traffic over the years, and we actually are very tied into all the publishers that we take that very seriously, and we share revenue and send people downstream, and we're a big part of the traffic flow of the internet still. We take that very seriously. And so that is all very unique data that, I don't know if everybody knows the history of large language models, but the way they were created was by going out and really without knowledge or permission, sucking in the entire internet. And the way they work is they predict the next letter. So they're not actually conducting normal search. It's almost like autocomplete. They're like anticipating, well, what is the likely next word here? So that's why
the next syllable, right?
The next syllable. Next token, and so when you're getting results that feel very personal to you, or you think that they're really answering, that's what they're doing. They're predicting. And so step one was they all digested the same information. Step two is they're all based on the same transformer paper that Google published in 2017 about how to do this. So they all work the same way. And so there may be some differences, but they're very slight. They're all pretty similar in how they were conceived and composed, and they're all very similar in how they produce results. So we thought, look, if you take all of our data and you just apply a model to that data, we could have very differentiated results over time, very personalized, because 70% of our users are logged in and come to Yahoo directly. And so we could produce a very unique, useful, set of results. And then we also thought that the first generation of these AI engines were not really created in a way that maintained the social contract with the open web, with all the publishers from whom they got that content. They took it, but then the way you guys all know this from your own usage, the interfaces all look the same. They look like a PhD student at UC Berkeley created it with a bunch of citations at the end that do not link back to the publishers from whom they got the content in the first place. So we wanted to fix that. So our interface, which I think also has just more personality in general than these other engines, very specifically has highlights that are linkable back to all the publishers. And we put a lot of effort into that so that, and by the way, I'm actually happy if the other engines copy us on this because I actually think it's good for the internet itself. Because without these publishers, there will be no content left to produce the answers that we're all getting from AI search. So yes, we also had like a core value in the product. Like not only do we think we could produce really high quality results, which if you go to Yahoo Scout at scout.com, you will see I will stand our results up next to anybody's, but also differentiated. And then they maintain this value of trying to do the right thing and send traffic back to publishers.
And just so people know, so it's Scout as a Yahoo product. Do you need to be logged in to use it, or is it? Can you? You
do not. So it would be helpful for a couple of reasons. One is we just launched in January, and I should say when I point to Eric Fang in the back of the room here, we actually acquired his startup last summer, and he came in to lead consumer search. And Eric is a luminary in the history of search in our industry. He also created Hulu, by the way, for Hulu users here.
Hi, Eric.
But we in my background was in search. My first 10 years in the industry were in search, and so he had an amazing team and vision for like what this could really be. And what we launched in January was just 6 months of work. So we really are just getting started in what this will be. So over time, it will become more and more personalized. So I think being logged in will really help the quality of the results that you're getting. Second thing is, I don't know how many people here are OGs, but a lot of people used to love a product called My Yahoo, which was a personalized portal for the internet that you could customize on yahoo.com. That went away when we got here because it had become very convoluted. The back end didn't work, and it was just going to be impossible to upgrade. Eric, just this week, 2 days ago, in fact, relaunched a version of that on the Scout technology. So it's being created on the fly by AI, by Scout. It's called My Scout. It's not called My Yahoo, but you actually now get at scout.com a personalized portal on the fly in 2 ways. One is if you're logged in with Yahoo Finance, Yahoo Sports, Yahoo News, Yahoo Mail, you're actually getting pre-populated a personalized portal. And it's awesome. It's super slick. But the second is you can create new categories on the fly just by doing a query into Scout. So if you prompt Scout, like I was doing in testing before we launched, Olympic gold medal winners. And every time there's a new gold medal winner, it would update. And you can do that on any topic. And so create new tiles for yourself on your own portal. So yes, you do not need to be logged in, but being logged in will help.
Gotcha. Okay. So, I mean, this tees up my next question in a pretty good way because it's about my question's about discoverability. And, thank you for what you were saying about publishers. Fast Company, like any publisher, is dealing with the way that the, fundamental nature of information retrieval on the internet and who's reading what where and the monetization or lack of monetization for publishers involved in that process. So we think a lot about discovery, but it's not just a media thing. Anybody that wants to be found on the internet right now, it has discoverability challenges. So beyond Yahoo, can you share your kind of high-level view on how you see the problem of discoverability right now?
Well, I think you're largely talking about SEO and search and kind of historically what drove that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of you work in publishing, but just from your own usage of these products, you know that you're not clicking on many links when you're getting these answers.
The thing is, and I admit this at my own peril as someone in media, but these interfaces are good. Like people, not all great, but like you like how easy it is.
I think there was a big bang in November of 2022. The product is so good that only happens about once every 5 years. It's one of the reasons why Yahoo is still so big and relevant is they don't come along very often. Before ChatGPT, I think it was TikTok. Before that, it was probably Snap. You just don't get these generationally defining products very often, and large language models were the next one, and they were the one in the most important category, which is search. I actually think that if Google had been the one to launch this product, it would look a lot more like Scout, and it would have had links, and you would have been more trained to click on those links, because not only is it better to go to Fast Company and find out from the source, but you actually want to validate the answers. We all know, it's happened to me in the past week. Start using another engine, I got hallucinatory results back. I was doing research on a person, and I asked it about that person. I presumed this thing was true. It told me that it was true. It was not true. And so I told this person this thing about their resume, and they're like, "Oh, I never worked at that company." And it is great to be able to validate these answers at the actual source, which is why it's important. I actually think Google will head back that direction, but the first thing they had to do was fend off ChatGPT because users were leaking over to them. So we are still early. I actually think 3 years is pretty early, and I think these UIs will gravitate back. Just since we launched a month ago, we started greeting everybody with very quirky, cheeky, greetings every time they come back. If you come to Scout and hit refresh 20 times, you're going to get a different icon, a different greeting. I've started seeing the other engines do that. I've started seeing them link in blue highlights the way we do. So I actually do think it's starting to work. And sources are important. So hopefully you won't need to spend too much mental energy trying to game, a pretty hard game, I think, to get where there are no links to kind of figure out how to get people back to you. And these things will adapt. But Without it, I do think it is rough. And I saw a stat that said only 20% of publishers think that they can make decent money of any kind by being paid by large language models for taking their content. And by the way, it happens to us too. We're a top 20 publisher for having our content taken, which we don't love. But if you prevent that, then you're also preventing traditional search from getting to you, and we can't have that either. So,
yeah, we are at this moment where it's hard to say which way it's going to go. I mean, the history of the internet is full of examples where it felt like a legacy business was shut out of the user experience. So music, right, Napster and all that. Then it got sorted out. A model, not a perfect one, but a model was devised that allowed the business to survive and artists to survive. With publishing, it feels like we're at that moment right now where it's kind of make or break.
Here's one other important thing is I do not think, with as expensive as these things are to produce, that you can survive on subscriptions alone. Advertising is also going to have to cross the chasm here, including search advertising. And I know there was some controversy about OpenAI having ads on ChatGPT, but I actually think this issue was litigated 30 years ago. There are articles from the 90s criticizing Alta Vista for having search ads. But as time went on, Overture happened and Google ads happened. As long as it was for a commercial query and the answers were relevant, users are fine with commercial, paid sponsored search results. And I actually think that's going to happen in AI search too. And I think it's totally fine. And I think it needs to happen to subsidize these things. I also spent time in the streaming wars after the search wars, and we created what's now Paramount Plus, my old team, and we had ads subsidizing that too, because not every user wants to pay for the ad-free version. You know, they are happy to pay less and see some ads, and so I think that has to happen here as well.
Let's talk about younger users. You know, I mean, I don't think the average person would probably imagine that the Yahoo audience is a young audience. Certainly not. I don't have this data in front of me, but I can't imagine that the AOL.com audience is a very young audience either.
We sold that. We sold that in October.
Yeah. So, but you do have quite a few young users. How have you guys, give us some numbers on that. And also, how have you gone about courting them? We talked about fantasy sports. I know that's one way, but how have you gone about sort of bringing the youth audience into Yahoo?
So you would be surprised probably to learn that 50% of our audience is Gen Z and millennial. That is also true of the product you might expect at least, which is Yahoo Mail. 50% Gen Z and millennial. I don't think it's happened because we are genius marketers to get to that crowd. I think we've been doing some very interesting marketing things lately. We have an amazing social media team, for example, doing some incredibly unique, modern of the moment, posts that you would not associate with Yahoo. We did an ad campaign that won a Clio with Liquid Death for the launch of Guillotine Leagues. And
their creative director speaking here during the Fast Company Grill, by the way, Liquid Death.
I mean, it's chopping a user's head off at a bar, so that you wouldn't associate that with Yahoo. But we have done some interesting things, but at the same time, Yahoo Mail is the only other personal mail that is a brand of any size relative to Gmail. And we've been improving the product a lot, and we've been having the highest usage ever for Yahoo Mail. And so it has to be that these users, we have 90% of the U.S. is using Yahoo products in any given month. And we're the fantasy product. We're the Yahoo and ESPN are the most popular fantasy products. If you are getting out of college and just starting to try to make or save money, you're using Yahoo Finance. It is these are the really strongest brands in their categories, and I think so we naturally get that audience. But we are doing more and more some interesting things to get them on board as well.
So what does Yahoo look like in, say, 3 years? And if the answer to that question is, I have no idea. 3 years in, AI time is 20 in, 5 years ago's time. So, but curious what your vision is looking a few years ahead.
I do appreciate that Bezos quote about what won't change in 10 years. Like, let's start there. And for him, it's like low prices and convenience and shipping and whatever. For us, it's, are you going to need a place that is your official, personal, real-life hub of communications. That's what mail has become, right? Messaging and chat became this way you're communicating in a lot of ways. You and I are emailing each other plans for today, right? That's moved to chat. But official communications with your school or your work or your newsletters or your receipts or your travel plans that you're getting back from a hotel or an airline, that all happens in mail. So that won't change in 3 years. So we have to be amazing at that. The way it is changing is it's becoming more predictive. So with AI, we have to get better at pushing to you the thing that you need to know that's going to happen. So and with Scout, we actually have built it into every product that we operate. It's not just a search engine. It is it's okay. We at our office in New York, this happens outside 50% of the time. So
this is not a metaphor.
We talk right past it at work. So yeah, I think that actually you're going to get things actually pushed your way in these products much more often. Oh, he's coming right here.
I see he's coming down. He's
Hopefully not here.
Soon. Everyone check your phone.
But that's happening in every product. So in finance, we're scouring what's happening in the market for you and with what stocks you're tracking and ways that you could actually save money in personal finance, and we're actually pushing that your way. The prompt box that you are now using that you've always used for search is changing with AI search. It's going to change for everything you do. So the next stage after personalization for us with Scout is agentic. I think there are going to be very wonky ways of that are going to sound really complicated if you're looking at Twitter all day long. You can get really intimidated by it. The way it's really going to happen, that's going to be easy for every normal person, is you'll just query that box with the thing that you want to have happen. Alert me every time that this stock goes over $150. You can actually authorize us to buy a stock for you after that happens. Think about that same thing for a travel deal, for a pickup in fantasy football that you want to make, for anything in your life. A calendar alert. This is all going to happen. You're going to be able to speak to our. You won't even know really anymore between Scout, the search engine, between mail. You're just going to tell us all the things you want to get done today, and have us tell you what your schedule should be to get it done. It's not you're going to have to go and organize your calendar anymore. So that really is how your life will change over 3 years. It will feel very subtle to you as a user. And I think you'll just get used to the new temperature of the water with the way these products will start working. If we do our jobs right, it will feel very natural. So in a weird way, you won't really feel the impact of this over 3 years. It won't feel futuristic because it will just naturally happen.
Okay, last question. The company went private in 2021, right? So have you enjoyed running a private company and the kind of autonomy that gives you and not having to file every quarter and all of that? And are you considering taking Yahoo public again?
It has been great being private. I think Yahoo generations of the past, I have a lot of empathy for trying to make changes the way that we've done as a public company, with everybody kind of just all over you all day long for any change you might make, or having to hit quarterly numbers, or your stock tanks. So that part's been very healthy for us to be able to do that. I think at a certain point, we will earn the right to go public again, just based on our numbers and based on our trajectory. And look, it doesn't mean I think the world needs to start to be more accepting and positive about smaller sized public companies, smaller sized media businesses. Think of all the awesome creators who are building great niche business, really healthy businesses. Think about Emily Sundberg at Feed Me, or think about the TVPN guys. These are great smaller sized businesses where they're making a great living, and they're extremely valuable to all of us. At a weird level, if you think about Yahoo or Snap or Instagram or Pinterest or Roku, these are not Reddit. I mean, these are awesome businesses that are not Amazon or Google, and that's okay. So I think at a certain point, it would be great to be that business again too. And who knows if we get bigger than that, if everybody wants to come on board the Yahoo train again and and go on this journey with us, that would be awesome. But at the same time, I think we're building extremely valuable assets. Search engines don't grow on trees. Email. Think of a few products, operate in these categories. And so I think it would be very smart of someone else to try to pick us off before we get there. But if that doesn't happen, we're on our way.
All right, Jim Lanzone, CEO of Yahoo. Thanks very much.
Right,
Check out
thanks,
Scout.
everybody.
Thanks for listening.